Well, Joe Biden and Yair Lapid have signed a security pledge in Jerusalem, reaffirming their united front against Iran. The pledge is called the Jerusalem-US-Israel Strategic Partnership Joint Declaration. It plans to never allow Iran to acquire a nuclear weapon and plans to address Iran's destabilizing activities in West Asia.
Today, you and I also discussed America's commitment to ensuring Iran never obtains a nuclear weapon. This is a vital security interest to both Israel and the United States, and I would add, for the rest of the world as well. I continue to believe that diplomacy is the best way to achieve this outcome, and will continue to work with Israel to counter other threats from Iran throughout the region, including support for terrorism, ballistic missile program that continues, and the proliferation of weapons to terrorists and proxies like Hezbollah.
Well, this is a show of unity by allies, long divided over diplomacy with Tehran. The pledge reaffirms US support for Israel's regional military edge and the Jewish state's ability to defend itself by itself. The United States says it will never allow Iran to acquire nuclear weapons, adding that it's prepared to use national power to ensure that outcome. Iran and world powers signed the 2015 nuclear deal that capped Iran's nuclear program. But former US President Donald Trump withdrew from that deal in 2018. The move was designed to squeeze Iran economically until it returned to the negotiating table. But a defiant Iran resumed prohibited nuclear work. Biden took office with a promise to restore that deal, but the nuclear talks in Vienna have hit a stalemate. Israel now says it would support a new deal with tougher provisions. Meanwhile, Iran says it will not submit to any further restrictions. Well, Susan and Joni are both still joining us on the broadcast. Jody, I want to turn to you first. Israel has long been worried about this idea of diplomacy with Iran. Is this joint pledge now a signal that it's ready for a new nuclear agreement?
I think Israel has said all along that it would be prepared to see an agreement with Iran, and it would welcome an agreement with Iran as long as it would be an agreement that truly would be able to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons. Now, we saw Prime Minister Lapid say today in this press conference that words and diplomacy alone will not stop Iran from getting nuclear weapons. And we also saw President Biden say that, of course, he believes in diplomacy first, but that the US would use force as a last resort, but it would be prepared to use force to stop Iran from getting nuclear weapons. And Lapid also talked about the importance of it not just being a bluff and not just being words, but that countries need to basically put their money where their mouth is, and it has to be a credible military threat in order to get Iran back to the negotiation table and to a deal that would truly be able to stop it from achieving nuclear weapons.
And Susan, turning to you, the US has now been saying really for months that a new deal is near, but it hasn't yet happened. Could this pledge move us any further towards that agreement actually happening?
You know, it's hard to imagine whether or not a deal would be near at this point, considering the fact that we did hear a recent IAEA report that Iran is closer to a nuclear weapon than ever before, and sending some military aid to Russia as well. The situation seems more tense than the Biden administration wants to lead on right now. It's also important to note that there are a set of waivers that the Biden administration issued regarding sanctions, civilian sanctions, that back in February. Those waivers are set to expire later this month. That might make the situation more tense as well. Will they be renewed? Maybe that will sort of renew hopes for this deal to go through talks, sort of a good faith gesture on the part of the Biden administration. But, you know, it's yet to be seen. President Biden is facing a lot of pushback, not only from the Republican Party, but many within his own party here in the United States as well, on how to deal with Iran. And despite the rhetoric, we're seeing that, you know, he does push on diplomacy, but, you know, his actions do speak louder than words. And I think that interview that he did that was aired yesterday, that he said all options are on the table, I think Iranians will be watching that very closely as well.
Jody Cohen in Jerusalem and Susan Tarani in New York City. Thank you both very much for joining us.